this conversation is that a lot of people have their own narrative about what black and white in America and in Mansfield and in Ohio means.
Well, I wanted to have this at the barbershop because the barbershop is actual discussions happening. To be open in the barbershop and talk about literally anything with, no regard to how someone else may feel. So I want everybody to know like, this is a safe place. Like it's okay if you don't agree with the person next to you. It's okay if you don't understand them. But that's like the biggest reason why we're here. Is for education, awareness, and understanding of what's going on.
My name is Walter Google, name is Dad, and I'm a professional retiree.
Fantastic.
I'm Olivia Augustine, and I'm a lifetime resident of Mansfield. I'm a graduate student right now for applied behavior analysis, and it's pretty interesting because this is all behavior. A lot of everything that's going on is behavior. From COVID to rioting to racism, all of it is behavior.
My name is Micah Elke, born and raised in Canada, pastor Storyside Church. My wife is from Ohio, so I always joke that she won here. So I've been here for about 20 years now, and started Storyside Church a little over 17 years ago.
I'm Jeff Wimberly. I work for the Richland County Sheriff's Office. I've been an officer for 28 years, anxiously awaiting retirement. Born and raised in Clear Fork Valley. I'm a Valley boy, I'm a farm boy. Grew up in Butler, Ohio. Seen a lot of things in the last 28 years that I've been an officer. Some good, some bad.
Damien, I kind of run this place, cut hair a little bit.
I am Cameron Todd. I am part of the Corona class, hopefully the one and only, but I take pride in the Corona class. I just graduated from Mansfield Senior, born and raised in Mansfield, moved to Ontario. No, but I will be going to my freshman year at Ohio Dominican to play football and study communications and education to become a middle school counselor.
My name is Elijah Thorne. I have lived in Mansfield pretty much my entire life. I currently serve as a project planner in the engineering department for the city of Mansfield. What I'm hoping to get out of this is, we got a lot of different perspectives here, so I really want to learn perspectives and see how everyone is viewing this, what everyone's narrative is.
My name is Kristen. I'm born and raised here in Mansfield. I'm his aunt.
It's my auntie.
I've kind of questioned the validity of my own voice, but I decided this year, just watching, that I've decided not to be silent anymore. So I'm the same as you, just perspective and understanding. I think that's the only way that we're really going to learn and move past and grow.
Let's dive right in for a second. Is that in many cases our country is divided along racial lines. Maybe not all the time, but at least some of the time. I want to start with you, Mr. Buford. What divides us? What about race divides us?
Well, I've had many years to ask that same question, and I haven't received a valid answer yet. I really don't know why it's like that. But as I said, I grew up in the South, in
Whereabouts?
South Carolina. And it was really, I saw things firsthand that a lot of people now just see, or heard their parents talk about. But I witnessed a lot of things firsthand. And I'm yet to find out why. That's you ask the question, but I really don't know why race separates us like that. But one thing, I think this is important because people don't talk about it. Whatever is going on, everybody's fighting the system, but nobody gets together and talks about maybe, get an understanding and it could spread.
I think that's a big part of this. Like people need to discuss it to kind of get the ball rolling on things. I'm curious. So, for Cam, so you went to Ontario school. Just growing up, I've heard a lot about racism. So, do you feel like you dealt with that there and not at senior high because you transferred to senior high? How was that? What's racism like? What's racism like to you?
I'd have to say that going from Ontario, which is a majority, white school, there was of color about 10 to 12 of us probably total in the high school maybe. and then going to senior high where there's 10, 12 in the classroom. Wasn't a big change for me because I come from the best of both worlds, my mom being white, my dad being black. I've always been around so much, but I'd just say just from my peers and what they thought would happen to me and what they thought would be different, like I would get asked, you know, like questions like, are they ghetto, do they fight a lot, are they different, like, you know, like whether they come from different backgrounds,
Right.
but I mean, it's just like, it's crazy to think how down there and 6 miles down here, you would think is the North and South Pole, like it's insane. Like no, like Park Ave runs from Mansfield to Ontario right down there, and it's still like it's always been. I've always been involved with both. Like you know, I grew up on Brickman. I could throw a baseball to the Mansfield senior, but I played Ontario. Then I moved to Ontario. Now I'm back at senior high, and I've just never really seemed to understand. I've heard all the stereotypes. I've lived. I'd probably say, I mean, I'm one of the very few that lived them. I've lived the stereotype of Ontario, I've lived the stereotype of Mansfield, and once you're there, all stereotypes are out the window. And I feel like that's how it is with a lot of things. That's how it was for me. I mean, I've experienced race issues from like, maybe a sporting event my freshman year when we play, you know, Cary way on, you know, I don't even know where Cary, Ohio is, but like that's, I just remember it vividly. I've had, since this whole thing has started, I've had some people apologize. I don't know why they're apologizing to me. Like, I mean, they feel like I'm like, I don't know. It's weird, but like that was a good question being asked. Like, just that there was no racism in Ontario, maybe that I don't. I mean, there might have been. I was overlooked. I mean, if there was, it never really bothered me. I've been the best of both worlds, literally. In every way, every shape or form, I've seen it all. I've been on both sides.
I went to Pioneer my last 2 years of high school in Shelby, I was maybe one of 3 or 4 black kids there. And I was coming from senior high, Mansfield Senior being my home school my first 2 years. And it was something similar. It was a similar experience. It must be that the disconnect is happening at a very young age because they were asking me the same questions.
Yes.
Hey, are they fighting all the time?
Yeah.
Is there guns? Is there drugs?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we pretty much just go to school.
Yeah, we go to-
That's what it is. So, yeah, it's just a disconnect there. Like there's not a lot of cross conversation.
Yeah.
Exposure.
It's sort of childish in a way because I mean, when we're younger, like Shellbillies, you know, the Podunks over there. Lexington's where the rich kids are. Mansfield's where the ghetto kids are. Like, you know, I mean, like when we're little though, like when we're little. Like we're like, I'm talking, we're running around after recess at lunch in 5th grade. Like, oh, my cousin's Shelby. Oh, well, does he have pigs or like, does he wear overalls? Like, you know, like. And it's crazy to think that we
go there. You're like, it's not that.
And with the social media and connections now, you like if you want to know, you can find out.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, then take a 4-minute drive that way and go find out. Like it's not rocket science to me. I mean, it's literally it's insane. Like, 'cause it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. It's school easy. Guns, weed. Teachers yell at kids. Teachers yell at kids everywhere. At the end of the day, I take the same state test that Ontario takes, that Lexington takes, that any school takes. We have the same education. Our teachers go through the same thing that your teachers go through. I don't know. I've never understood that, and I get angry all the time because I just think it's so childish to talk about. Like, I don't know. It bugs me. It bugs me a lot.
There's something to that. Definitely.
Yeah.
So one thing, Pastor Micah, so social media, I know you're very, just ever since I know you, you're very like intentional about the things you say. I know you put a lot of thought into like putting stuff out there, but I gotta see a post from you saying, you know, how, you know, racism is not okay, you know, and if you think racism is okay, then I'm probably not the pastor for you. You know, so like what is that, you know, what brings you to that?
I would like for you to unpack a little bit. What does that make you feel like as a white man to say that in public? To make that statement, although that shouldn't be a revolutionary statement. I think in certain senses for older white men, it is a little bit revolutionary in today's world to say it out loud to your friends. Because a lot of folks are saying that it's not white people need to talk to other white people about racism. And I'd like for you to unpack that a little bit. Like, how's that make you feel when you say that?
I mean, I think for me, it's been a journey. I mean, the first thing I would say is I definitely don't have all the answers. I'm born and raised in Canada, so our diversity was Indian reserves, and that was our diversity.
That was for me too when I was a kid.
So, you know, coming down here, you begin to see the lens a little bit differently. I think so it starts with that, like, okay, and then, you know, probably almost 5 years ago now. So as I traveled, for whatever reason, I would speak in a lot of African-American churches back in the day. And so I just started developing a lot of friendships in that world and almost became some of them like family to me. But to fast forward to your question, probably 5 years ago now, almost 5 years ago, Brooklyn started dating Trey, you know, who is mixed. And so I started seeing some of the comments or some of the insinuations or some of those things as a dad, not just as a pastor. So that factored into it. You know, I almost got in a fight at a football game, being a football
I heard
game.
about that.
Go in and go and unpack that.
So,
Let's hold some space for that one.
Let's hear about this.
you know, you probably, you know, I have 4 kids. My oldest is 20, the one that dates Trey, and you probably start caring too much about boyfriends a little bit. Like you get your own feelings involved. But I'm at a football game, and Trey, who's a great football player, but missed an assignment, and I heard someone behind me say, "Make the block, you GD nigger," is what they said. And so I turned around, asked who said it. No one would respond, but I narrowed it down to 3. I should have let it go. I didn't. But that wasn't really maybe, I don't know, the pastor Mike at that point. I was just mad, period. So, you know, answering your question, I think for me it's been, you know, working with Kristen, trying to ask her, like, you know, what have we worked together now, 6 years? Over 6 years?
Officially 6 years.
But like, tell me, teach me, like, how can I help? Like, what can I do to help bridge this? I don't have all the answers. What can I do to help? And just hearing her heart on it and trying to listen to, I think, on our end, maybe some of the jokes, the innuendos, the whatever, that maybe we, you know, maybe it's just become part of it, like the Shell Hillbillies or whatever,
Yeah.
the Shelby Hillbillies or whatever you're saying. You know, people often talk about Clear Fork, like Camo Fork and all that stuff. Like, so I think for me as a pastor, every time you pick up on it or every time you see it, it just builds another layer of frustration. So for me, you know, I told Kristen even today, I'm like, I don't know if I should be part of this talk, because I can get frustrated sometimes from every angle. You know, I have had in the last 24, 48 hours, 4 or 5 officers call me. Jeff wasn't one of them, but I have 4 or 5 officers call me like, Pastor Micah, like, it does no good if we don't feel the support of you as well. Like, we can't deal with this if we don't feel the support. So I'm wanting to help bridge the gap of racism. You know, it frustrates me. You also know not all bad. You know, one pastor that messes up don't make all pastors bad. One law enforcement don't make all law enforcement. Like, I understand that principle. But anyway, I just, in the moment of posting that back to Damien's thing, I think it just builds up over time, and I try to be careful with what I post and read through what I post, but every now and then I don't. And I think in that moment, it was just,
But you were telling the truth in that moment.
I was, like, I'm sick of it, and if you're racist, don't come to our church. You know, I don't want to be your pastor, so.
Olivia, what do you think is oversimplified about race in America? What do you think, how does the conversation become one where it becomes really oversimplified?
I mean, for me, the one word that keeps coming back to my mind is perception. And it boils down to the perceptions that we associate with the people that we see. It doesn't matter who it is, but oftentimes it comes down between race, you know, black and white. And, you know, when we're so little, we begin to pair these ideas with things that we see in our environment. I texted Damien about like the psychological aspect of race and how it starts at such a young age. We pair things from TV shows and things like that, and so then we start to get these ideas. So if we see, you know, one bad cop do something, we generalize that to other cops. So with Skinner, you know, he had the Skinner box and the pigeons and the mice that would press the lever for food, or a light would come on and they would get shocked. So if they see this light and then get shocked, they learn that the light means shock. But does that mean every single light shocks them? No, but they like think that. And so then we get scared of every single light that we see because it might shock us. And so I think it just becomes this blanket, you know, of wherever we go, whoever we see. If we had a bad experience here, that means we're probably gonna have a bad experience again, you know. And so I think that then people don't want to dig a little bit deeper, and then it just becomes, like I said, becomes this like blanket statement of, you know, all cops are bad, or all black people are, you know, angry, or whatever, and all this stuff, and it gets so muddied, and people don't want to ask deeper questions, you know.
The oversimplification happens as we build these perceptions as we grow up, that a predominantly black neighborhood is a predominantly crime neighborhood. A predominantly white school is a predominantly rich school. These things that happen, right? You know, that suddenly begin, like we begin this pulling apart. You know, you see, it's of course they're cliches for a reason though, but right, when you see kids that are 3 years old, they don't know. They're just kids. You know, they just peed their pants and they want to play in the sandbox. And they all, it doesn't really matter how, it doesn't matter what color they are, they just peed their pants and they want to play in the sandbox. But at some point or another, they recognize that they want to play in the sandbox with the kids that look like them.
Say they're watching a TV show, and in every single TV show that they watch, the cop is white and the bad guy is black. You know, then they start to associate bad guys with black guys and good guys with the, you know, the white cop. Or, you know, and then they generalize that. And generalization is just a natural occurrence that happens. And so, like, then they begin to generalize these ideas across, and they kind of fill in the blanks. And I think that that's maybe where they start to get this, you know, idea that there's a difference, you know, and it's subliminal. It's in the things that we watch and the things that we say and how our parents react to things. We notice those things. And so, like, we are the ones with the perceptions, and we are the ones that may have a reaction to somebody that we don't even realize that we are reacting.
Right.
But our kids see that. They see the look on your face, or they see your body language, and they notice that when you're around someone, you know, that might be a little sketchy. And then they might generalize that to people that look like that person, and then they're kind of sketchy around them. And so then it just compounds and grows as we get older. So that's kind of like what I mean.
Kristen, you said earlier when you were introducing yourself, you talked about how a year ago you decided, roughly a year ago, you decided that you were going to use your voice more.
This year.
This year.
It was this year, yeah.
What made, talk to us about why that happened. What led to that?
It was this most recent with George Floyd. I remember watching all the way from Trayvon Martin. Again, there's so many. I don't know if I necessarily see the when I think about it, I don't remember all of the details. I don't know who killed who. I don't remember. I just know that for some reason there are black men that are dying. And I just, when it got to George, I remember sitting in my car, it was last Tuesday night, and like sobbing, because it's like one murder closer to my family. And he's one of them. And so I don't have children, but
3 nephews, right?
I have five
5 nephews.
total. 5 black nephews. One lives in Columbus. One lives in Greenville. Like these big cities where people probably don't care, you know, who they are. It's just another black man. So that bothered me so bad. That I'm like, who's gonna fight for my 5 nephews? So That's all I got there.
How does it feel to be there?
I'm irritated that I'm here. So like my upbringing wasn't any of this. So I did grow up in Mansfield. I grew up in a very diverse world. Like all of you look normal. Like you are part of my normal, the way that you look. I don't know if maybe my parents sheltered us from racism. Like it was really happening, and it was happening, maybe obviously it wasn't social media, but maybe it was happening and they weren't letting me see it, they weren't exposing it us to it. We watched like the Cosby Show, and you know, you got doctors and lawyers, and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you got black judges, and so it was never there was never an oppressed type of feel. We didn't grow up that way. I remember just talking about high school. I remember the first time that I realized, so we were playing Lexington at a basketball game, and their chant was, "It's all right, it's okay, you're gonna work for us someday."
Oh my.
And I remember like somebody taught them that. Like I remember exactly like freezing in that moment. Like they learned that from somewhere. And I think that's the first time I was like, there's people like that around, you know, and they're across the floor. It's like they're over there. I remember that we used to always have police officers at the big games, because especially the big race, you know, because somebody's gonna break out in a fight. Not that my parents ever taught me, they didn't teach me racism, but they said you don't be in Shelby after dark. I'm like, okay. There's a reason. I think it's the fact that I was in a world that was like, we're all okay. Like everybody, I love everybody, and then to be like thrown into, maybe it's the social media aspect where I can actually see everything that's going on, and it's like I'm sick to my stomach. And it's sad. It makes me, I don't have children yet, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to have kids in this world, and try to help them figure out and balance this. So I just want to do what I can to be a part of the solution, and if I need to bridge a gap somewhere, I'll get on my knees and like be a bridge, you know, to help somebody over.